everybody. Welcome back to another episode of TMV Live. My name is Shahrzad, and I think you have an idea of who this is. This is Kayli, and this is Teresa. I think you guys remember her. And we have a new face. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Nicole Jackson-Jones. I have a YouTube channel called Twisted Broad. It's a channel I started when I was a divorced single mom, and I did it for finding my homies out there, you people who are not quite living the white picket fence lifestyle for now, but are still having a good time and rocking it anyway.
I love it. Welcome. So happy that you're here.
Glad to be here.
Do you guys have any fun updates? I have an update. It's huge. I met Reilly.
Oh, yes.
I hung out with Reilly all day the other day.
It was a pretty great day.
We're besties now.
Totally.
She got a nail painted, just one. She got a flower crown, and I got her some candy. And we played these fun little games.
Right. She
That's
loves
my
you.
update.
She loves you. She's obsessed with you.
Besties.
As am I.
Yay!
Well, I don't have really any updates, but school is going great. We've adjusted to back to school. I'm kind of adjusting to being home without my kids all day, but they're doing really great. And I mentioned that Gage wouldn't let me hold his hand. He said, oh, you can't hold my hand. He is now holding my hand all the way to the door and giving me a kiss. So I think it was just like that first few days he was like, I'm not so sure if this is cool. And he was like, it's okay.
Guys are okay with it, right?
But yeah, that's...
Well,
What's
my
your
update is very exciting because I, like many, have been interested in the nail art trend, but do not have the manual dexterity to be able to paint my nails like that. Yeah. So I found a way to fake it by making my own nail art stickers.
Get it, girl.
So I'm sure a tutorial will be coming, so don't miss that.
Watch for that.
Fantastic.
They look amazing.
Well, thank you.
Well, I guess since we're on chick stuff, I'm going to give you a chick update. I recently turned 43 years old, which was fantastic.
You look
great.
amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, you know, I love kind of promoting the aging process because it can be fun if you try. And so I recently went on a cruise to Alaska, and I just want to pass this out there for all you women out there that might be aging. Rather than doing the fillers and the Botox and stuff, go on a cruise, gain 10 pounds, everything fills out nicely. My husband is thrilled. You know, if you're a slender woman, you could maybe use those 10 pounds. So I'm the only woman in Los Angeles promoting eating a cheeseburger.
Fully support.
I love it.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
I want to hear more about Alaska because I'm dying to go there. Anyway, our topic of the day is love. Woo!
Red lipstick.
Yes, we've got a theme going on. We're talking about love. We're wearing red, so I'm very excited.
Yes, I love talking about love. I'm always happy when we do. And I've talked about my love story quite a bit. I met Casey in high school. I was a sophomore. He was a senior. I was 15. He was 18. I fell madly in love with him, and the rest is history. And I want to hear about yours. Your love stories.
Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but my love story is gonna beat yours because it's amazing.
Whatever.
So I met Baby Cake's angel butt trinket soulmate, Michael. That's his name. I was 25. I was a makeup artist, and I booked a job to go on tour for a race car driving reality show. And my job was to do makeup for the girls that waved the flags to start the race. I was in charge of hair, makeup, wardrobe. So every day I would set them up and they would look like these, you know,
Hotties.
flag girls. So Michael was a contestant on the show, and he raced cars, so we toured all around the country, and he ended up winning the show. So I picked a winner. So he's a reality star, and he won season 2 of Bull Run. And then we did long distance, LA to Chicago, which was so fun and romantic. And we got hitched in San Francisco. That's my lover boo. And
Oh my gosh, you're so gorgeous.
yeah, that's
Just like, that's an ad for
we had so much fun. We we dated for a year long distance and just like had a blast. And then we got engaged. I spent a couple months in Chicago. We did a 3-month engagement. It was quick, easy, fun. Our wedding was just a party, which is exactly what I wanted it. No stress, just a blast. And I love his guts. I love his guts and bones and skin. Yeah, it was a very fun, romantic way to meet somebody. Oh, that's it's not every day you meet on a race car driving reality show.
I love that love story.
It's just so fun, yeah. So that's my story. What about you?
Sticking to it.
Well, on the surface, mine sounds a little bit boring. We went to the same college. We lived in the same apartment building. But the difference is that we met at BYU, and he played on the football team, the college football team, and I was the co-chair of the Student Feminist Club.
Right on, sister.
So we are opposites attract, totally. I have this picture that I'm going to have to put on my channel, so come to my channel to find it. But where I look like a total goth, and he has like blonde highlights, and he looks like Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell.
Nice.
And so we are just, we are total opposites, but we've been making it work for just over 14 years. We just had our 14th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
And our wedding was such a party that we had it catered by In-N-Out.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, beat that.
Beat that.
All about the grilled cheese and mascara. That's my cup of tea right there.
Just trying to keep the grilled onions off the wedding dress.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
my goal.
Nice.
And I was successful. It was a party. I loved it.
Fun. Oh, cool.
Wow. Yeah, see, I'm sitting here listening to you guys tell these beautiful love stories, and they're wonderful. Yet, if you were coming from the divorced single mom perspective, it really, I just did a video about this and posted it, and it's about being in love with being single. That's really got to be the goal when you are a divorced single parent, or actually really anybody for that matter. It's not just for the divorced single parents, but I think it's really important to really love yourself and love your life as a single person. And I'm gonna sound like I'm singing a Whitney Houston song here, the greatest love of all. You so don't want me to sing right now. But my point being that, like, for me, when I met my husband, it wasn't about meeting him. It was more about me being really happy and content and healthy and well. And then I met him, and there he is. And he's a unicorn. He is the only man over 40 in Los Angeles that is got his act together, that is loving and kind and sweet and wonderful in every possible way, who is single and available and a good father and not gay and looking for a woman around his age range. You know, so
found a diamond.
I'm telling you, I have women saying this to me all the time, like, where was he? And it's because I found him because I wasn't looking. And it was because, that's why, you know, as you guys are telling your love stories, I think it's great to talk about meeting somebody, but at the same time, I really had seriously fallen in love with being single. And I don't mean that like a not looking for anybody. I used to put myself out there and really try to meet people, and that is how I met him. You know, I did put myself out there, but I was single for about 7 years and really enjoying it and learning how to be a parent as a single person. And you know, I was telling you guys beforehand about how I would take trips with couples that I knew so I could give my son family experiences, but meanwhile not pushing the issue of trying to find a guy just so that I can start being happy.
I hate that there's way too much pressure on women to always be with a man. And it bugs me so much. I was single before I met Michael, and I had a blast. I think it's an important thing that a woman should go through, and I don't think that you always need to be in a relationship at all, because then people get into relationships for the wrong reasons, and they're in a relationship just to be in a relationship because society tells you that you have to have a boyfriend when you're in high school or when you're in college or whatever.
That's how you know you're worth something. And somebody tells you you are.
Bugs me so much because people should just be happy being single. There's so many fun things to do when you're single, like date if you want to, and you know, dating should be a fun process. I think for me, I had fun dating, and I learned a lot about what I liked and what I didn't like in a man, and that way when I did meet Michael, I knew right away because I'd had all these other previous experiences dating people. I was like, oh, I don't like when somebody does that. Okay, note to self, going forward, I want my man to be like this. So,
and also when you do that, you also create a lot of time by yourself, so you learn what you like yourself.
Exactly.
So that way, you're not hoping to find somebody to make your life entertaining. You've already got a good life established, so you're not willing to just give it all up because you finally found the guy. You know, it's like when I met my husband, I had a really great thing going, so I wasn't gonna sign up for a lot of craziness or drama or chaos or anything. I was like, I have such a good thing going here, so I only, you know, like attracts like. So you end up attracting a really healthy, happy person who my husband was
stay
too.
Good to enter my world.
Yeah.
Love that.
So, we're talking about good relationships. What do you guys think are some signs that you're in a bad relationship? Have you ever been in a bad relationship? I know you've been in a perfect, happy relationship.
Since you were a baby.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to that.
I'm sure you have friends that have been in bad relationships and you look at them and you're like, oh, your guy is doing something shady.
It's always easier to see from the outside.
I think, I won't say who Carly was dating. But she was dating someone at one time, and I hate to throw her out there, but she's my best friend, and watching her go through it, I felt like she was changing for this person, and she was holding back these great qualities that she had in herself and not letting all of herself shine, because she has so much to offer any guy, the world, and I did go to her and I was crying. I'm like, you have to be yourself and you can't fit this mold. And so it wasn't abusive, but I've just seen things like that.
It's so hard to watch. I have so many friends that have been in terrible relationships, and I look at them and I'm like, do you not see how awesome you are? Yeah. And I don't think that they do. But from an outside perspective, you know, when a guy is cussing you out and it doesn't have to be physical to be a horrible, bad relationship. It can just be somebody like putting you down constantly.
Right.
Like when we talk about like abusive relationships, and specifically emotionally abusive relationships, because I think a lot of people understand, well, if somebody's laying their hands on you, that's wrong.
Right.
It's the rest that's
I hope
like,
everybody knows that.
Well, if they don't, then listen to me right now.
Yeah.
If someone is laying their hands on you, it is wrong.
Absolutely.
But it's like the emotional stuff that we get a little more murky about. And the one thing I want people to understand is like, there is something of value in this person that you love. Like, there's a reason you were attracted to them. There's never this like boogeyman that like is pure evil, and that's what an abuser looks like. That's never how it works, because if somebody was just a bad person, then they would never have anybody around them to mistreat. Like, there are things that we love about these people, that they're charming, or they have their times when they know how to be so sweet, and it's at the other times we have to pay attention to. And so, you know, I'm not a psychiatrist, just understand that, but I've been around the block, and I know that there's some questions you should ask yourself, and don't try, like when it's just you in a quiet room, you know, and there's nobody you have anything to prove to, you can just not try to say, well, he doesn't do that anymore, or she doesn't do that too often, but just answer yes and no to things like, do they embarrass you in public? Do they criticize you? Are there things about you that they want you to change that you're not comfortable with? Are they trying to talk you into sexual behaviors that you're not comfortable with? Is there, like, do you feel like you have to manage their feelings? Like, are you afraid of how they're going to react? And that
codependency.
That's exactly right. That's codependency. And so it doesn't have to be like an abusive relationship to be a codependent and unhealthy and manipulative relationship. But where it really starts to cross that line into emotional abuse is, for one, how they make you feel about yourself. If they are cussing you out and calling you names, that's emotional abuse. But a huge red flag to look for is isolation, is what they call it. So like picking fights so that you won't go out with your friends, or like pushing it so that you won't want to go see with your family, being really possessive or jealous. That kind of cuts off your ties for your support network and makes it so that the only person you have to trust is that person. That's like and that's how people get like tangled up. You know, you think like, I'm a smart woman, that would never happen to me. But that's not how it works.
Well, but you also have the people who will meet each other and they will fall in quote unquote love, but they're either, like you said, codependent, clinging to each other, and so they think it is, but it's not really. There's also, I got into drug and alcohol counseling. There's a lot of people who meet, you know, in their early 20s, and they're tipsy and a little, you know, drunk at the time or whatever, and they develop into these big relationships, and then you grow out of it, and you maybe start taking responsibility for yourself. So I mean, you have to
sober, and I don't like you anymore.
Exactly. And as somebody who doesn't drink anymore, I can understand it. My husband doesn't drink. He can say the same thing. You know, you are not necessarily. There's a thing about the beer goggles, and it's you know, it can get you married. And,
I think there's a country song about that.
Totally, and it's true, and it's certainly not to disrespect an ex, because I don't mean it like that. I just mean you might not, on both sides, you might not be picking your best pickers.
Thinking more clearly,
yes.
You might make
so
different
you know,
choices.
Again, going back to personal responsibility, make sure you know you are in a healthy mindset to be picking the right person.
I think the key to knowing that you're in a good relationship is that person bringing out the best in you? Are you guys like this all the time? It's like from that Sex and the City scene when Samantha's like, are you like this? Or are you like this? And it's like a very basic test. Like, are you smiling a majority of the time? It's not always going to be smiling and happy. Are you feeling depressed, feeling isolated, feeling alone? And are they bringing out the best or worst in you? I was in a relationship, I had one like bad relationship under my belt, and I was like, oh God, that was terrible. I was like, I had no friends that year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, no like good relationships with girlfriends. Like they all kind of fizzled out when I was with this person, and I was like, that was awful. And it was the same thing. People are like, oh, you're back now. You're not like in your weird like whole, you know, room with this creeper who's a liar, and you know, but it's good to go through those things and realize them quickly and then move on. I think.
Yeah,
really is.
And I love what you were saying about taking personal responsibility, because I do
That's so
think that
important.
that's how you learn to just have the one bad relationship under your belt. I think it's important to not take responsibility for their bad behavior, but like why you chose that.
Why you chose that, and also, you know, you have to, at some point, it was somewhere probably in my late 20s, early 30s, where I really started getting serious. I had a very challenging childhood, not to, you know, get into a Lifetime Channel movie here. But
I'm right there with you, sister.
But, you know, we all have our stories.
Everybody
we
has
all
a
have our
story.
story.
Yeah.
And so if you have a story, and if you know yourself that it could go into a really good Lifetime Channel movie where you end it, where you're the hero, and all the bad guys are the bad guys, and it's official, you know, you might want to start realizing
like a really seductive
you
trap.
need to go a little deeper and, you know, go there and try to figure out so that you can really have that kind of healthy mindset. That because a lot of us, sounds like you know, what you were saying, you have a beautiful childhood. It sounds like you had a wonderful relationship with your husband, and that's all fantastic. But there's not a lot of you out there anymore. Right. You know, it's something to be. I look at you almost like you're a unicorn, going, wow, and you were talking about your wonderful family too, and that's wonderful. It's a celebration of people who are definitely doing it. I'm not saying they're not.
My family's definitely been through a lot.
Yeah.
I try and focus on all the good stuff that we went through, and I have just positive. I try and remember the positive stuff, block out the negative.
Right.
But by no means was I like a little Miss Perfect childhood.
I also think, like you were saying, reflecting on yourself. I was so young when I met Casey. We've both grown into different people.
Yeah.
I mean, you are someone different in your teens. You're someone different in your 20s, in your late 20s, and I think you have to focus on what am I bringing to this relationship.
Right.
You know, oftentimes I think it's natural to focus on what are they doing, but you have to turn that back on yourself to make things work.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. Because this is always something that's fascinated me. I have two friends that were married in high school, and they're still together, and they're madly in love. And it's like, I introduced them. I put them on the first date when we were in high school. I was there. Jen and Dave, hi. Anyway, but what's interesting, what I've never heard of, is even intimately, I don't want to get too personal, but even intimately, they managed to work together to even change that way, because women, we change a lot. Men, you know, they can kind of stay and work it out. Women, we're like ever-changing Rubik's cubes, and I found this out for myself. A lot of the reasons why I've had to have different partners throughout life is because I've changed a lot, and I haven't quite until now found the man that could change with me. So do you find that was something you guys easily were able to?
I mean, for a long time, I think that we were both almost embarrassed to talk about it, and then finally it was like, we have to talk about this too. Like it has to be something that we talk about and get everything out there. So you're not holding that back and you're frustrated in that way. It has to be something that you just put out there. And don't be embarrassed.
My husband and I we were both virgins when we got married. We were the only partners we've ever had. And that was a conversation I insisted on having, like, before we ever got married. Like, this is what I'm going to be comfortable with, and this is what I'm interested in.
You mean sexually?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sexually. And he, of course, like, he was, you know, 22-year-old virgin. He's just like, okay, whatever you say, I'll take it.
I'll do anything you want me to do.
I'm good with whatever you're giving me. But since then, I feel like that set like a great tone, because even now, like, you're totally right. What I liked at 20, you know, I like different things now, and I can still say, let's try this. And he's kind of like, okay, whatever you want, I'll do it.
Sounds like a good guy.
That's wonderful. That's what I think is a number one important thing, not just when you're dealing with sex, but anything, is the willingness to work with each other through change.
Yeah.
Because it's not just change because of circumstance, you change.
Right.
You know?
Right, and it's not always pretty. It's not always like this pretty thing that's growing. Sometimes it gets really ugly, and it's like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Who am I? I don't know who I am. And it's hard, and those conversations are not always pretty. Sometimes they're like, you're hurting my feelings, and what is happening here?
But the fact that you're having those conversations
that's so
is
great.
That's
key,
what'll always
key,
keep you coming
key.
back.
Yeah, and that's
really
why you guys have lasted 14 years, 13 years, you said?
We've been
10
together.
years.
We've been together
I'm
13 and a
14.
half,
Yeah.
but we've been married 10.
You guys are fabulous. We have some questions from Twitter.
Woo.
Slavika Poljak, awesome name. Ooh. Hi, moms. When will you let your kids start dating? Do you think it will be different age for boys than girls? Ooh, let me dive in. Go for it. Well, my daddy is from Iran. And in his country, dating is essentially illegal. So you just don't date there. He grew up with no dating. There was no dating. And I mean, for the most part, it was like arranged marriages. So I grew up in California. I grew up with a very open-minded mom, and my parents are very open-minded, but when it came to dating, my dad was so freaking strict. That was the one thing we really butt heads about. I would get a phone call from a guy at like the age of 12, like, and it would be for, I swear, for like a school project or something, and I would get yelled at like you would not believe. And it's like, okay, Babajun, that's how you say dad in Farsi. Like, I don't have control. This is like when people had to call the house, you know. I didn't have control over who had my number from the school directory or whatever, and he would just get so mad. And it took a very long time for my dad to understand that, you know, it's okay to date and we're in a different country. And it took me so long to understand where my dad was coming from. Oh, where he grew up, you just don't do that. And so it was a big, huge battle. Yeah. But my first official date, I was 14. I did not tell my dad, sorry, Bubba June. And it was the most awkward, terrible thing on the planet. And it was just so uncomfortable. But I do think that group dates should be okay in like junior high. Because for me, I always felt like, okay, my friends' dads are American, some of them, and they're letting their daughters like hang out with guys and go on these things, but I was strictly forbidden to do that. And of course, it just made me want to go on dates even more. Yeah. And it made me want to go behind my dad's back and date. So I think for any dads, if they are watching, like, I think it's good to just keep it really open and just know if your daughter does want to go on a date, like, you should talk to her, you should meet the guy for sure, and you should start off with like group dates. That's my personal opinion. I think it's totally fine to go on dates when you're in high school, and I will let my kids go on dates.
Yeah. Well, my son is in a wheelchair, and so what he's going to be physically capable of when he's, you know, a teenager, I have no idea. But there's already so many limitations that I kind of feel like if he gets himself a date, good for him. You go, buddy. Like,
yeah, enjoy it. Yeah.
That's right. Like, you go hang out. Like, I'm cool with that. And maybe that's part because I will probably have to drive him and lift him out of his chair. So there's going to be a lot of supervision on that date. But the circumstances are so different that I feel like I can just toss all the rules out the window and make them up as we go along.
You know what, but I have as my son and my stepson, one's 10 and one's 11, I actually still would agree with you regardless, because my thing with both of my boys is communication with them, and they know I treat, even at their age, I treat crushes and who they have a crush on or who they're interested in, I treat it very seriously, and I tell them all the time. I say the reason I don't go, oh, that's cute, little puppy love, is because at 43 years old, I don't remember half the people I had a crush on in my 20s, but I can tell you every person I had a crush on in first grade, second grade, third grade, so I take it very seriously.
So good. And it's serious to them.
It's serious to them, and it is serious to us, meaning, like I said, who was your crush in elementary school? Do you remember?
I do, but I don't want to say.
Okay. See, it invokes that kind of reaction. And so I think because both of my boys know I take it seriously and I care about them and I want them to have a good experience, I'm going to hope that the communication is open, that if they want to go out with a girl, we're going to, I don't need to know all the details, but I agree with you, group dates and things like that, but I kind of, my goal here in LA, because I grew up in a very conservative part of Utah, I didn't grow up around a lot of, kids doing whatever they wanted to, you know, so growing up here in LA, I've got to change with the times and with the environment, so I'm hoping just good communication with my kids and them feeling like they can, ask if they've got a good point of view as to why they want to go do something. I'm hoping I'll stay open-minded.
Yeah.
Well, I say I was dating Casey when I was 15, but we actually didn't go on our first date until I was 16. That was a rule. I'm sure you guys know this rule. Don't date until you're 16, and that is a rule that will be in my house.
Okay.
A one-on-one
date.
Okay. Will not be
allowed.
What about
a high school dance? Because high school dances start when you're a freshman and you're 14.
Right, you're right. And my parents let me go to dances when I was 15. Because you're with a group. Yeah. And I think that that's different. Yeah. And now I will probably let my kids do that.
Yeah. I'm going to let my kids do whatever they want. As long as there's open communication.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys. It was so fun. Like, you wanted to go on a date so bad, and then when you turned 16, it was like this magical time. You got to drive, you got to date. It was just like so exciting that I really kind of loved it. I still got to hang out with my friends. I hung out with Casey, he was my boyfriend. And I had other boyfriends before that, and we would hang out as a group. But that first date when he came and picked me up was at 16, and I kind of loved that.
But where do you live though? You still live in Utah?
No, we live here.
Oh, you do live here. Yeah. That would be my only challenge with that is if all of their friends are doing it a little bit differently.
I don't care.
You don't care.
That's what it was for me. Like a lot of my friends' parents, they would let them go do all these, you know, activities that involved guys. And I remember I had to jump through so many hoops to let my dad get me to hang out with guys. I remember I wrote a contract to go on a trip. And I had 3 of my best friends' fathers sign this contract saying that they were okay with their daughters going on this big group date with men. And I showed it to my dad, who loves contracts, and I was like, Bubba June, look what I have. I've got, you know, Ayla, Charlotte, and Talia's dads all signing this paper. They're okay with guys. You're the only dad that isn't. You better sign this and let me go and do whatever. And he was like, okay, Jesus, like, let me just sign this thing. But I was like, yes. But I had to put in so much work to, like, do these things that, you know, the other kids didn't have to go through, which I guess maybe looking back at it now, you know, as a hustler businesswoman, right? I was like, I'm making this happen.
You were getting an education.
Because there's going to be parents who are going to do it that way, where it's, you know, a bit more conservative, and I have nothing but respect for it. At the same time, I also want to point out, like, I was a straight A student. I stayed out of trouble, yet I had all those same strict rules because I had a stepfather at the time who was really strict about all that sort of things. And I'll be honest with you, it caused me to want to do things a little bit behind his back at times. I didn't feel heard or listened to on any level, and that's why, you know, even in this changing time, I just want to make sure my boys, because both of them are such good kids, that if they have a legitimate reason why they want to go out and do something, I'm going to listen to it, and I'm not going to be too strict with rules. I'm going to be strict with them as an individual, rather than saying you're not doing it at this point. It's just a different way of going about it. Not one's better or worse. It's just there's 2 different ways to do it. And it sounds like you'll probably maybe be a parent who's a little bit more lenient, but only if you can stay involved, and only if the kid is a really good kid.
Yeah,
right.
You know?
That's
it
the
depends
thing.
so much on the kid.
I had good grades, always played soccer, but I still wanted to do whatever it was that I wanted to do. But I do think for me, with my future babies, that I will be really, really open as long as they keep me in the loop with what they're doing. You know, I don't have babies yet, so I could be singing a different tune.
Yeah, you might look at them and be like, you're never dating anyone ever.
No, you're gonna get glued on.
You're mine, and we're gonna
this
be
is
together
what I
forever.
think in advance. I'm like, that's the kind of like cool, like laid back, like open mom, like that's a friend. You know, that's
cool
how I
mom.
want to be. Cool
my sons, I'm not a cool mom. I'm not your friend. I'm still the boss.
I'm a drill sergeant.
But I will be open. I'm an open drill sergeant.
But,
yes.
Yeah, but I could be singing a totally different tune. I could be like, oh no, you're in bed by 8.
It's scary. I mean, to really think of your child, I mean, that's Reilly in just a few years. To let her date, no way.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were really open and honest with me. They had me when they were teenagers, so they were very strict. And I did sneak around a little bit because they were like, you're not going to that party. But I guess, like, looking back, I'm so grateful for the things that they didn't let me do, because I'm like, oh, I would have been doing that, and I would have gotten into trouble there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a bad kid. I was a good kid.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there only because it's just a different perspective. It's my little sister, who's 9 years younger than me, and she grew up with my now stepfather, who my mom remarried, and he was a wonderful guy. They did the completely open thing. Now, she was a straight A student. She was a good kid. I think she's now married. I think she's had maybe 3 partners in her entire life, and one of them was a high school boyfriend, and they let him stay there. Like, they would let him spend the night and stuff like that. And there are parents who are doing that. And my sister would be the first one to tell you, not only did it not hurt her, it actually made her feel secure. It made her feel like she was trusted. She was a good girl. You know, she's now 3 years old, and I'm just telling you her experience. It's not necessarily what I would do. I'm saying, like, it's, you know, there's so many different ways to do it.
It depends so much on the kid.
It really does.
My parents didn't know anything that I was up to, and I was still a great kid. I mean, I didn't get into trouble. I mean, obviously, I was a virgin when I married my husband, so I didn't get into any fun even, let alone trouble. And that worked for me, but I remember just like longing for rules. Like feeling like rules showed me somebody cared. You know, there was somebody who was aware of me, you know? And so but my sisters took total advantage of there being no rules, and they lived it up and did all kinds of stuff.
My brother could have a girl spend the night, and it was like, what?
No, that would have killed. Oh, I would have been so mad if I were you.
Oh, my sister had it way easier. She's younger too. I paved the way for her. We have another tweet. This is from Nick Foster 7. What do you think about the pressure on teens to have high school relationships? Are they as important as they seem? Oh, high school. So much pressure in high school.
I made a joke about it earlier that like we're supposed to be in a relationship because that's how you know you're worth something.
Right.
But that really, I mean, it's funny because it's true, right? Like that's really the way we're taught to think about ourselves. Somebody loves me, so I'm worthy of being loved. And that is just so wrong on such every single level. So I look back on some of the people that I spent time with in high school just because I just wanted someone to love me. And I'm just like, oh gosh, like, whew, no, like losers, just losers. So I was just like, but hey, it's somebody, you know? And that is just such toxic thinking. I mean, there's like high school just seems like a time where there's just so much pressure and so much going on and so much that you have to do, and it's like your whole future just feels like on your shoulders, and it's just like it's not a time to just waste your time with losers just because you feel like that's what you're supposed to be doing, you know?
I think, you got to do what's right for you. Again, it's individual. I think that we've got to take the word should and throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
You know? Seriously. Like, especially as teenagers. We need to get out of their woulds or shoulds and let them just be. Because, you know, I have a friend who's got an 18-year-old son. He is so gorgeous. Oh my gosh. And I know when he was a little baby, and I'm just like, oh, look at him. And yet he's been in a relationship now for quite some time with a very artistic girl. He's an artist, and he's fantastic and great. But then I also have another friend who's got a teenager who's not interested. You know, she's got a lot of other things that she's interested in, and it's, you know, I think in this day and age with the ability to kind of have communication with everybody with the internet and all this craziness going on, I think the kids are going to be teaching us what's right for them, not us telling them you should have a relationship or you should not have a relationship. I think they're going, or why don't you pipe down, old people, and we'll tell you what works for us.
For me, high school, I had a boyfriend in high school, and he was a really great guy. But for me, it was about my girlfriends. You know, it was about all the fun and all the trouble that we were going to get into and the parties we were going to throw. And it was like, when I think of my high school memories, sure, there was like, you know, one or two guys I dated seriously, but it was like I made the best friends in my whole life in that core period of time. And I think like, that's one of my favorite memories. I'm still extremely close with the girls that I was friends with in high school. And I feel like when there's less pressure on like having a relationship and there's just more focus on like having good friends, you know, relationships with, you know, friends, not necessarily a relationship with like, oh, we're dating, you know, we're gonna do the dance together or whatever. I think it's hard when, I remember there was 4 of us, we were a tight crew, and 3 of us had a boyfriend, and then the other one didn't. And she was really bummed about that. And that was a lot of pressure on her just because we were doing a lot of double datey type stuff. And that was, you know, unfortunate. And I know she wanted to definitely date somebody right away. And I think that pressure just sucks that it exists. But for me, I think the goal of high school should really be like, you know, doing well, being active in sports, whatever it is you're into,
and
learning about yourself and having good friends.
When I got a little bit older, I did date some guys that were awesome, like awesome. Taught me so much about myself, and like that I still credit. You know, I've talked on like that. My dad was bad news, and I dated these guys who really showed me like that I was worthy of being treated right.
That's
and that
what
they
a
were
good
great.
boyfriend at that age is going to work.
So there was so much good that I got from having a relationship, but I think it could only come to me when it was a good relationship and not one just like chosen out of desperation, like when I was younger, just to like fill this, you know, boyfriend slot. Somebody get in there, you know. But once I could let somebody great come to me, then, you know, then it was able to teach me something I needed to learn.
Yeah, I had the total Romeo and Juliet high school boyfriend from 14 to 18, and it was the greatest experience ever because I needed somebody to it ended up being a perfect situation for somebody to kind of show me the way you're supposed to feel and how it's supposed to feel when and the only reason I didn't marry him is because it wasn't right for me when I was 18. I was like, I need to leave Utah. I need to leave.
Yeah,
I have a lot of stuff I need to do in my life, and I'm not ready to make this choice for myself, which is what I think happens for a lot of people that grew up where I grew up. Is you don't get lucky in meeting the person that is right for you for life. You meet the good person who's right for you for those years. But I would never say to somebody, you have to go find your 4-year relationship in high school. It just so happened that it was what I found, and thank God I did, because it really was a beautiful introduction into what I have now.
That's good.
And I guess I didn't ever feel like I should have a boyfriend or I needed someone to feel loved. I didn't ever feel that way. I met Casey. The first time I met him, I thought he was just so silly. It was like, you. And then we started dating, and I just fell in love with him. But we had that kind of relationship. He wanted to go and have fun with his friends. I went with my friends all the time. And we would hang out, but we definitely had our own time. I was really involved. I just did cheerleading. And then I was a sophomore, and he graduated, and I still went to dances with other boys.
Oh, you did?
I was going to say, those boys would be so mad if he got you the whole time and they couldn't even go out on a date with you. They're like, how do you get that hot little cheerleader? We don't get to even go on one date.
No, didn't even get a chance so we didn't ever have like jealousy or like we had to be with each other all the time. It was actually quite opposite of that. It was like, I need my time. And so it really was a great relationship that we had in high school. And then he graduated and moved away, and I was in high school and did my thing with my friends, and then.
And those are the good memories that you look back on.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
I loved high school.
Bonding. I did enjoy high school too. You guys, that is it for our show.
That's
I know, it went by so fast. I know, no more love. Well, maybe we'll talk about love again.
Yes,
thank you guys for sharing your stories and your love stories especially. So fun. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back next week with another exciting topic. Okay, until next time, gotta go. How do you guys talk to your kids? How do you plan on talking to your kids about gays, and what are your...
I just have to answer that right away. I don't have to talk to my kid about it. Right. She's 5 years old, and it's a part of her life. I mean, it's not like... You're old enough now to know that there are gay people. Like, she might be gay, who knows? It's a part of her life. We have a lot of gay members of our family. Actually, my aunt, I just have to say a cute story. She is in her 70s, and my aunts have been together since before I was born, and they were just able to get married last year. Yay. I mean, amazing, right? Yeah.